Hello, and welcome to course P22. In this course, I'm going to share my thoughts on developing an audit for yourself internally. And the objective here is to get you to start looking at your welding process as improvable. Um, the concept of Kaizen is measuring, and making sure that you can measure something is to be able to improve it. So I wanted to go through some of my thoughts, having done so many of them over the years, just the basic ideas behind what I'm thinking about when I'm looking at an audit. So somebody says to me, okay, am I running as well as I could be? Are there any improvements to be made? And this is where I begin. So the first thing I'm looking at is costs. What are you paying for your consumables? What could you be paying for your consumables? Are there better alternatives? And what problems in the line might be contributing to this excessive use, or anything we might be able to do to make it better, right down to your reaming program. It needs to be examined. So looking at the cost of everything is important. The one I might select, and you can't do everything in the whole plant, but try to select one that actually runs what you think considered to be normally. If you try doing an audit with a troubleshooting perspective, you're going to end up with all kinds of questions about, we don't seem to be running as bad as you think. So we don't want to skew the data in that way. But when you're doing it, you want to pick one that runs relatively normally. You always want to isolate the consumables collection. When I'm doing a performance check, and this is kind of important, I go into a plant and they say, well, we're running okay. Just do a check for us and see where you think we are. The very first thing I do is ask everybody who changes a contact tip, nozzle or diffuser. I give a little can identified specific to the robot. There's no sense in looking at any contact tips, diffusers, and seeing what they look like, which they have tons. They're giving you tons of clues all over the consumables what's wrong, if you can't tie that particular bit of data to a specific robot. So make sure you keep everything separated. If you wanted any help identifying what does this mean when the contact tips get spatter or something in certain areas, you could give me a call. I'm always ready to assist on a ad hoc basis. Total electrode consumption. I'm always interested in how many pounds or kilos you've consumed in the past year. There's a little formula coming up that I'm going to share with you that will help you understand what I call the magic number. And you got to communicate. If you want to communicate properly with engineers and so forth, you have to understand spreadsheets and the type of information that you would put on a spreadsheet. So these are typical spreadsheets that I tend to use when I'm looking at either a brand new line. I'm helping somebody with a kickoff, because I can identify the weld, the lengths, and everything else, and it actually gives me all my information to understand what my costs are going to be as well. Deposited material, there's deposit efficiency, there's a bunch of different options there, things we have to look at. I've identified them here, cleaner. And the whole idea here is you could develop your spreadsheet. And if anybody ever wanted this spreadsheet, I actually will share it with anybody who would like it. So all you'd have to do is send me an email. Email address will be there at the end. You could have a quick peek, and I'd send it off to you. And it does a lot of the calculations for you. Now, the magic number is something I want to talk about for a minute here, because I'll ask companies what if you've got this magic number. And I never call it a magic number, not till later anyway, because I'm always interested in going to understand not how many contact tips you're going, but how many pounds of material you're using and getting through each contact tip. That is a very important number to me, because between that and looking in your scrap bin and seeing the condition of the contact tips, are they all burned up? Are they being changed regularly? So they all look, this would probably have a little bit of life left in it, right? Which is common when you're changing. But I'm very interested in seeing what that looks like, right? So from a purchasing perspective, establish how much electrode used in the last year. In the same year, how many contact tips were used during that period? And divide the electrode by the number of contact tips to give you the pounds per contact tip. You could do that in kilos, however you wish. So the objective here is to come up with a number. I've had people look at me and say, and the magic number for their place was 2 pounds. They got 2 pounds of wire out of every contact tip, and they thought they were doing just great. And I've had people look at me and get 80 pounds out of a contact tip, and said that they have a long way to go to get the efficiency they need. And these were both automated processes. So understanding what that number is a really good start as well. If anybody had this is only just scratch the surface. If anybody had any further questions about this, they can certainly give me a call, or my email address is here. I'll just give you a moment if you want to write it down. And thank you very much.